You're on.
Okay. Good morning, students. So this is the next day. MiZ RiVKA and I have already been to yoga class this morning and the sauna and the steam room, and we're all relaxed and ready for the next step here. But when we left you last, you might not have seen these. They look a little different. MiZ RiVKA's going to get you a little close up here. And this is the one I've been working on. This is the one MiZ RiVKA's been working on. And just as a reminder, we were like this with our paddles, paddling. And that turned this form rounded in these sides. And I spent about 20 minutes working on mine, and MiZ RiVKA wanted me to tell you that she spent about 2 hours working on hers. I don't know, it doesn't matter how long it takes.
Yeah, but I want my students to know it's not so easy.
Okay, so the next step is we're going to do the bottom a special way. I mean, it has a bottom. But we're going to put another piece on here to make the foot. And I'm sure that when you're watching this video, you will have already seen MiZ RiVKA's finished product. She'll show you what the foot is, so that makes sense, because we're going to actually be adding another piece on here, paddling it in, and trimming it out in the center to make a foot rim for the teapot to stand on. Now these circles we cut yesterday, and we cut them the same size as the bottom piece that we used. And today we felt like they were a little big, so we cut them smaller. So in your process, you might want to cut this piece after you make this, so you can size it just right. It's supposed to be slightly bigger, as you can see. Okay. Now, we're going to score and slip only in this area on the edge, not the center. And that was instructions from Junya, our teapot master, who taught us how to do this. She actually didn't teach us personally. We were at a workshop. So we're working from our notes and our memories about how to do this. But I have in my notes that you only slip and score that outside edge, not the center. In the center you use a little water. So I'm scoring here. So the tape ended right in the middle of my slipping this. But we have slip here, and we have slip right here. And now I'm just going to place this on here, center it. Okay, and I'm going to be using this paddle to paddle this piece down into the other form, which I'm going to do off camera, because I don't think you can really tell what I'm doing. And plus, this is the first time I've ever done it, so I don't want to do it on film. We want to experiment once, and then MiZ RiVKA will show you on hers how to paddle it in.
Okay. Well, we'll see you in a minute. Come on.
Okay, so I have already started to paddle off camera, and it was working pretty well, so we wanted to show you. So I'm paddling with the same angle here with the paddle, and I'm just turning and paddling. And my goal is to paddle this new piece into this profile so that you can't even see that there's that there was a new piece, so that the profile curvature goes right like it was.
And tell them why we're adding a whole piece like that.
Well, this is the technique that Junya used.
But it adds also weight.
And oh, okay, so we have this extra whole piece here, and there's going to be a little edge right here that's a little bit stronger. And if you think about it, that's where this piece and this piece met in our original construction. So now we've added a whole other piece on top, and we're paddling it in, and that's going to keep it from cracking here. So it's adding extra strength. Then we'll be cutting this area. We'll be cutting this area away and just leaving this rim, and it'll look like one continuous piece of clay without having any kind of seam there or anything like that.
And also it'll balance much better because there'll be a little heavierness to the bottom.
A little more clay down here, and it'll kind of, as the teapot's sitting on the table, it'll just sort of stabilize it with gravity.
Okay, we'll finish for them, and then we'll cut the foot off.
Okay? Okay. All right, now we have figured out how to cut this bottom piece out. We have this upside down, it's paddled in, this is all smooth, and the form is the way I like it. So I've got this tool, I have this in the center of my wheel, and I'm going to use this very carefully, and I have my hand, again I'm holding it like a pencil, and I have my finger touching here to support it, and I have this holding this at an angle. Can you see?
45 degree.
Yeah, and then I'm going to...
More than a 45.
I'm going to just mark lightly this little line of where I want it to be. It looks like it's a little less than a 1/4 inch between here and this line. And then I'm just going to go around little by little by little, and actually I'm faking this because I've already cut it. But I'm showing you, okay? So I'm cutting and I'm cutting and I'm cutting. I don't know how many times I had to go around. And I just want to make sure I don't go too far, but when I go just far enough, deep through that whole extra piece I put on, use any slip right here. And you can see here, can you see the angle? It's the angle we wanted, and that little foot is there. And then I'll just take a little water in my finger or maybe the end of a tool and smooth that, and that's going to be the bottom, and the teapot will rest on that. As we talked before, it has added a little weight so that when you set this teapot down, it doesn't feel like it's going to tip over. So, pretty happy about the way that's coming out. Huh, Miss RiVKA?
I think it's the best foot I've ever seen. I usually have my students add a foot.
Yes.
And this is so much more
This is such an innovative design. The Chinese Yi-Xing teapot way.
Let's just get right on that one more time, just so they can see how gorgeous it is. And then I'm going to try it, and hopefully mine will be as beautiful. Okay. Okay, you guys, I was really nervous, but I ended up cutting it, and it is quite deep because you're going at an angle, so it's almost twice the thickness. And then I took some water and smoothed it out, and I can tell since the very beginning I had this little dip in the bottom, and so I might have to fix that later on, but I'm not going to touch it right now. And then what I've done is I've put this at the center of my wheel. Let me get it back. As centered as I can on the wheel, and I've been moving I've been working on this for like 10 minutes right now, and it used to go straight up, but now I'm using this, and you can see where the tapper, I'm only tapping in that one little spot, that little dirty wet spot. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. And I'm just going around and around and slowly, and my eye is at eye level with the top, so I can kind of watch the edge as I bring it in. And you guys, if you think you can do this in 5 minutes, you're wrong. It might take you 2 days to do this, to make it, paddling it or tapping or whatever we're going to call this, tapping. It's a very slow process, but it's very wonderful to do. It feels like it strengthens the pot instead of manipulating it with wet water in your fingers. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I'm happy with the shape.
Now I just want to make a point that I felt like mine had dried out a bit at that top edge. If your clay dries out too much, you may have to add a little water, but don't overdo it because you're asking the clay to move, and clay has to have a little moisture in order to move. So you have to be careful. And you'll see us later after we've finished pedaling these tops, and you'll see the way the form changes. Now we've worked our way towards the next step, and last time you saw we were paddling in to form this inner reaching part that will become the top of the teapot. And so what Miz RiVKA and I have done is we've cut our pieces to form the top, and this is what it looks like before it's all attached. And let me explain to you what we did. We used our this tool that we used to cut circles, and we approximated what size this circle would need to be to go from here to here. And you can just kind of eye it by placing this in what seems to be the center and this on the outer edge right there. So we figured that out, and then we cut out 2 circles. That's the scrap that we used. And then one circle we left it just like it was. That's going to sit right up on top there. And then just gently with our thumbs and our fingers, gently and delicately, we pinch this to form the dome. And the outside edge it's not changed enough that the outside edge changed. It's pretty much the same. And we just formed them until we felt like they flowed with the form of the teapot. Now this is a little confusing because that won't be there when we're done, and we'll show you later. So we're going to actually smooth that down into one continuous line. So what you want to do is, again, score and slip.
Why don't you take one of the teapots off?
Take one of them off
So it's not so crowded for them to...
Take this one off. Okay, so we're going to score and slip, and the scoring and the slip just needs to go on the outside edge. Now that hole is in the middle of mine still, and I'm just going to leave it there because actually that's going to be cut away later. So I didn't bother to fill that hole. Just remember when you use this tool, you do end up with a hole that has to be plugged. I plugged that in the other piece. So I'm scoring that, and this is the edge that's going to touch. I'm just kind of scoring it. And just, if you haven't done much with clay, just remember scoring helps the slip actually take hold and hold the two pieces together. In my opinion, some people have a different opinion about that, but I really like to score and rough up the surface before I add slip. Sort of like chocolate icing. Okay, so then I'm just going to center this on this piece, and I'll be working with this now off camera because it's a little hard to do on camera to smooth this edge in and make this one continuous line here to form a top of the teapot, and we'll show that to you later.
Okay. I'm ready to go. Hi you guys. I'm sure that you're so excited about what you've done, but you're probably kind of still a little like, it's not exactly the shape I want, and that's what happened to me. So what we have here is not the finished thing, but as close to finished before we start putting our flange on. And I want to show you what a flange is before we start talking, because so you don't ask a million questions. What's a flange? This little part right here sits into the teapot so that the lid doesn't fall off. But right now we have nothing. We have just a big old clay bomb. So we're going to put this flange on. But before we do that, I want to show you Lucy's beautiful pot here that she did, and it's totally totally hollow in there. And we were finding that to attach the little round piece that we created to the flat piece, after we put the slip and score, we tapped it a little bit, but we tapped it down here by itself, not on the actual pot. So we tapped it in, and then we started smoothing it with our fingers, and then when mine was done, Lucy's a professional, but when mine was done, it looked like this big, huge, like, bloop. So I was really, really unhappy. So I want to show you how I fixed it. Move that aside. What I did is it was like a big, huge whoop, whoop, and I didn't like the shape of the pot, so I took one of these scraping tools, and it's made out of an elk horn,
Buffalo horn,
water
buffalo horn,
and you soak it in water, and you get it all nice and soft. And I'm going to buy some of these for you guys and cut them, because you don't need them this big. It's like too much. And what I did is I put it on the edge. I put the pot together, and I put it right at the edge. And we might have to put some wood or some books above our wheel or something so that you can do this a little bit easier. And I just took and I scraped lightly, scrape, and I kept turning my piece and scraping it until I could get the shape that I wanted. And I just scraped and scraped and scraped and scraped, and then I started realizing, oh, I want to change the shape of my pot. So at that point I was just scraping away until I got the way I like my pot. But then all of a sudden the top lid was starting to join with the body. So I took this tiny little tool and I just cut around the edge, and it just popped right off. And then it was a little bit rough.
Can you do that again for us?
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. And so then I smoothed it out a little bit, and there's going to be more things being attached, so I'm not going to make a big deal about smoothing it too much, because we're going to be adding, all sorts of different things to this, and so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But now it has a nice smooth fit, and I really like the shape. The next thing we're going to do to make the flange is, and I've already got the piece cut, but I'll show you how to do it, is you're going to take your calibrator. Is this a calibrator? What is this?
I think we could call it a calibrator. We don't know what it's called. It probably has a Chinese name that we can't pronounce.
Yeah. And what I did is I measured, I eyed it. I stood up.